This is the 3BN YouTube channel where books come alive. I am your narrator, Atari Deli. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have been looking at the book, The Secret Lives of Baba Segi's Wives, and this episode we're going to be looking at chapter 13. We've looked at 1 to 12 up to now, and in chapter 12, we saw that Bolanle, the latest wife of Baba Segi, or the youngest wife, if you may, released like a particular secret of hers that we didn't really know earlier. If you want to know the secret, I'm not going to tell you. Just go back and listen to chapter 12. Again, thank you for being here listening to this. If it's your first time, welcome. We are happy to have you. If you're a returning listener or viewer, kudos to you. Thank you so much. Please like, share, and subscribe. We also like to see your comments. Thank you very much. Feedback is very well appreciated. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Chapter 13 is titled Iya Femi. Your father and your mother are gone. The man whose lips mouthed these words was my uncle, my father's only sibling. His eyes were bloodshot and swollen. He had lived with us for as long as I could remember. When my father went into the deep forest to hunt bushmeat, it was he who watched over me and my mother. My mother didn't need watching over. Whenever my father stepped out of the house, she sat on the porch and wove baskets until he returned. Many said their dying together was God's mercy. Gone where? I asked. My parents didn't go anywhere without telling me. My tears demanded it. They are dead. My uncle shook me by the shoulders as if to ensure that the words he had spoken sank into my belly. I fought off his fingers. I leaped into the air, aiming for the wall with my forehead. It took 3 grown men to hold me down. Somebody must have put a curse on them. People in our village didn't like to see others doing well. Why else would a log slip from a lorry and crush them on a road they traveled every day? This was the question I asked the perplexed mourners who came to pay their respects. My parents were good people, hard workers. Our house was built from concrete blocks. My father always said we deserved to live like royalty. They were buried on the day they died, the Muslim way. I was their only child, but I was not allowed to see them. The men did their best to hide their corpses from me, but I saw red streaks on the white clothes they were bound with. Blood leaked from their broken heads as they were lowered into the ground. Kai! What a terrible appetite this ground we tread has. It eats blood and bones heartily, no matter how good they are. We have found work for you in Ibadan. My uncle did not have the courage to say this to my face, so instead he sent the ugly witch he was courting. My mother despised her. She said the woman had a disease of the eye. Everything she saw, she wanted. I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay in Okelbo, where my parents are buried. This is my home. Wipe your eyes, she said, passing me a rag. It has been a month since your parents died. This is not your home, and it will never be. A girl cannot inherit her father's house because it's everyone's prayer that she will marry and make her husband's home her own. This house and everything in it now belongs to your uncle. That is the way things are. Everything belongs to my uncle. It was as if the witch had rammed a fist through my chest. If I had a knife at the moment, believe me, I would have sliced her belly wide open. Yes, your uncle. What will you do with this house anyway? You cannot live here alone. Even your grandmother has said it is better for you to go. She was lying. I had seen my father's mother on the way to the market. She was half blind. From the way she was walking, gingerly greeting passerby, it was obvious she hadn't been told of her son's death. He would have killed her, and another funeral would have been expensive. So, you and my uncle will live here and use all my father's belongings? My uncle had won my father's heart to the burial. Go and pack. The people we work for are coming to collect you this evening. I cannot believe my uncle would do this when he knows how much my father wanted me to go to school. He wanted me to be educated. Baba, can you hear me? Why What kind of misfortune is this that has befallen me? I placed my hands on my head and invoked my father's spirit. Listen to the words coming from your mouth. Your parents have spoiled you. Maggots crawl beneath your skin. Your uncle has found you a household where they have promised to send you to school if you behave. Yet all you can talk about is the misfortune that has befallen you. Many people who are older than you have not tasted the sweet life you have enjoyed since birth. Your parents should be ashamed. I do not know when and how my teeth found her ear, but they refused to unclench, even as blood dribbled from her lobe into my mouth. My uncle heard the wailing from where he was hiding and ran to rescue her, but I was knotted around her. The hand pistol my uncle used to knock my mouth open broke one of my front teeth. I didn't care. What is half a tooth to half an ear? She would think twice before speaking ill of my parents again. When the woman who came to collect me arrived, they eagerly told her that I was an untamed animal. Told her to watch me lest my madness drive me to bite the bark of neighborhood trees. There aren't many trees where we live, the woman said, and if there were, she would be too busy sweeping the leaves under them. As they drove me away, I glared at my uncle through the rear window and licked my lips. He should have known I would return one day, but that is the problem with evildoers. They forget that the world turns, like the people in it. I was indeed pampered, but I was not spoiled. And although my mother washed all my clothes for me, there were no compromises when it came to cooking. She knocked me over the head with a wooden spoon if my amala was either too soft or too dense. So I spent many nights nursing and aching for head. It was at the Adege's household that I learned how soda bites the finger and hardens the palm. As soon as we got to Ibadan, the woman snatched my bag, pressed 2 check dresses into my hands and told me I was to call her grandma. She said only her children called her mommy, and I was too lowly to emulate them. Here, she said, the house girl wears uniforms. She showed me a tiny space under the stairs and pointed to a mat that was wedged beneath 3 wooden planks. This is where you will sleep. Let me warn you. I don't want to see any signs that someone slept here when I come downstairs in the morning. I will burn anything that I see out of place. If that means you walk around naked, then so be it. I served the Adegbe family for 15 years. I served grandma and her husband. I served their children, and then their children's children. From the day I got there, I was a house girl, and my status did not change. They pillaged the most futile years of my life, all the time treating me as if they had found me in a pit latrine. Grandma slapped me if I dropped oil, or if it fell off the ladle to the cooker. If I didn't answer the first time, she yelled my name. She shaved every strand of hair on my head. If I ever overslept, she would cut me all over with a blade and rub chili pepper into the wounds. Once, when she saw me speaking to the gate man, she stripped me naked, rubbed chili pepper between my thighs, and locked me out of the house for a whole day. She did not even remember that I was 18 years old with a chest full of breasts and thighs full of hair. All I could do was weep with shame. It was Tunde, Grandma's first son, who first climbed between my legs. I was not allowed to retire for the night until everyone who lived in the house was within its walls. So I would doze on the stairs while I waited. On this particular night, he came in drunk as usual. He said he had had a bad night and I should have mercy and let him. I didn't scream like Grandma's daughters did when they brought men home on hot afternoons. I lay down quietly and hid the pain beneath my skin. When he had finished, he embraced me and told me my body was worth paying for. I don't know what you're doing here, he said, as he washed himself in the kitchen sink. He emptied a handful of detergent onto his palm and scrubbed his pennies with fingertips. Then he patted his pubic hair with a dishcloth. You're not going to serve my family for the rest of your life, are you? I remember this conversation because I was 21 years old at the time. Yet it had never occurred to me that I could leave. Although the prospect of freedom excited me, the thought of escaping made my heart pound. In my childishness, I decided to give Grandma a chance to redeem herself, so I reminded her that I would like to go to school one day. She cursed me for my ingratitude and took away my mat for 3 days. The floor was so cold that I never mentioned it again. Although Tunde's words often came to my mind, I tried to forget the possibility of a future. a marriage, a family, or a home of my own. I became convinced that laundering other people's clothes, cooking 3 separate dishes every mealtime, and comforting babies that weren't mine, by the way, was my life. I was a fool to think Grandma would be interested in giving me the opportunity to improve my lot. It wasn't until the day Grandma sent me to the market to buy 2 cans of sweet corn that the impulse to flee returned. Grandma had had me chopping, roasting, and frying since 3 a.m. that morning. It was one of her grandson's birthdays, and birthdays were a grand affair. I suffered from fatigue after every one. My lips would ache and my head would whirl for days, and there were times when it took me a week to recover. I never let Grandma know this. If she saw me resting, she would punish me. It was surprising that she even allowed me to go by myself because she preferred to do all her grocery shopping herself. I normally walked 2 steps behind and struggled with the carrier bags. And although it was a memory that had failed her the day before, she had stupidly ticked sweet corn off her shopping list even though she hadn't bought it. I was the one who was sent into the hot sun. She didn't even permit her driver to take me. She said such luxuries would make me aspire to a status that was beyond me. I was on the verge of collapse when I got to the market. The top of my head was baking and I could feel the warm sand through the holes in my flip-flops. Anyway, there I was, propped up by one of the walls at Bodija Market, when a man asked me if I knew Jesus. From the little time I had spent in primary school when my parents were alive, I knew that Jesus belonged to the Christians. Since I wasn't allowed to go to church with Grandma and her family, he was indeed a stranger, so I answered, no. The man shook his head, looked up to the skies, and then at me. I was born a Muslim. I hadn't asked for his sympathy. Then let me buy you Coke and tell you what happens to those who die without confessing Jesus as their Lord and Savior. He had a Bible wedged in his armpit. His shirt was faded and his trousers were at least 2 inches short. He himself looked like he could do with Jesus' blessings, so I was suspicious of his eagerness to save me, yet moved by his generosity. I drank my first full bottle of Coke in 14 years, and it bubbled in my stomach. Its sweetness spread to my feet and my fingertips. The preacher spoke of love and all its virtues, but I just watched his mouth twitching from side to side. Perhaps he sensed that his idea of universal love was ridiculous to me, or maybe I just wasn't responding to the words the way he hoped I would, because his tone suddenly changed. He became firm and no nonsense. His eyes bulged when he warned that I would go to hell if heaven rejected me. But why would God reject me when I haven't done anything wrong? I thought perhaps I had fallen for the charms of a lunatic. We have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, he said. But what about people who sin every day? What about the rich who take and destroy? I was curious to see if his God would be partial to those like Grandma because she was wealthy. Hellfire! Are you sure of this? Sister, all sinners will burn. His eyes flared on the word burn. His intention was to put the fear of God in me, but instead, the thought of Grandma burning excited me. In my mind's eye, I saw images of hell, flames, melting faces, singed limbs. When he asked me to repeat the sinner's prayer after him, the sound of Grandma's wailing and gnashing of teeth drowned his voice. I imagined my uncle and Izuma sizzling in a bonfire of my father's possessions. That was a particularly exciting thought. Congratulations, he shouted. You are now born again. Now you too must spread the gospel of good news. For saving another soul, God has just added another room to my heavenly mansion. He drew a mark of his church on the back of a tract and handed it to me. Thank you, I said as I walked away. I was glad he got something out of it too, and tucked the paper into my bra. From that day, I prayed early every morning and late into the night. I created an altar beneath the stairs and laid the map of New Beginnings Church on it. A Jehovah's Witness booklet with images of heaven on the front cover sat next to it. Whenever Grandma slapped me for being absent-minded, it was comforting to remember that I would be welcome into the new Eden, while she was banished from the glorious gates and condemned to hell. Praise God! About 2 months after I received Jesus, Grandma scorched me with the iron because I burned a hole in one of her silk blouses. As I spread a film of Vaseline over the naked flesh, I decided I was simply not enough to edify myself with thoughts of her body crackling in hell. Something more drastic needed to be done. For hours every night, I would chant, "God, send Grandma and her family to hell, but spare Tunde, her son." Tunde was still slipping money into the folds in my mat. I wasn't sure if he was paying me for the sex we now had frequently, or if he was just petrified that I would confess our tryst to his mother. I had no time for telling tales when there was so much praying to be done. After 7 days of fervent prayers, Grandma slipped into the bathtub and broke her leg. My initial joy was shattered when I realized that she used her immobility to find me more work. She became an invalid. I had to bathe her and towel her dry, as well as everything else. Was Jesus punishing me, or was he pushing me to use the reins he had handed me? I chose the latter, and I started stirring urine and then a few drops of toilet water into Grandma's goblet. It wasn't long before she was admitted into the hospital for terrible diarrhea. How weak are the muscles of the stomach of the wicked. All the time I lived there, I was only allowed to drink tap water. Grandma said it was wasteful for me to drink from the family supply that I boiled and filtered every morning. Since the day my uncle had sold me, this was the first time Grandma hadn't been able to send me on errands. I soon began to believe that I too had dropped from between a woman's legs. While her husband and children spent their days by her side in a private hospital, I wandered beyond our fence. There was a new house being built across the road, and that is where I met Baba Segi. He was supplying the plumbing materials and he looked powerful yet kind in his yellow safety helmet. I offered him Grandma's precious boiled water. He accepted it and thanked me. The next day, he brought me a basket of oranges. It was Taju who delivered them. I didn't waste time in telling Taju I was looking for a man to marry. I was desperate. I didn't want Grandma to come back and find me. Papa Shaggy is the one who has enough money to marry many women, Taju advised. The one I have complaints every day. Then make him marry me. Convince him and put me in your debt forever. I have no relatives, so there's no one for him to pay homage to. Did you drop from the sky? Even farther up than the sky. Wait here, I will bring you something. I divided the money I had stolen over the years into two and forced one half into Taju's hand. I don't know what he told Baba Shaggy, but he did his job well. Less than a week later, Taju came along in the pickup and parked across the road. It was mid-morning and the house was empty, so I had time to pack everything I wanted. Before I drove away with him, I rubbed sheets into every pillow in the house, except for Tunde's. My journey with him hadn't ended yet. The first things that struck me about Baba Shaggy's house were the soiled curtains. The layer of dust on them was so thick that Grandma would have sliced the veins in my neck if she ever came home to find hers looking like that. Except our imported voile curtains wouldn't have been that way. The house girl would have washed them as soon as she felt the pinch of the red harmattan winds. The walls of Baba Shaggy's house were stained too. Everything was just grubby, but the wives were the worst of all. The aging toad and the shameless goat. One ruled the pond, the other played with his shadow all day. How they stank! If I had really wanted to punish them, I would have turned round and returned to Grandma's house immediately. But I decided to show mercy, especially after Baba Shaggy showed me my room. I was 23, yet I had never had my own room before. I had slept between my parents until the day they died. I looked at the double bed and tested the softness of the mattress with both palms. I would have been a fool not to lie on it, even if it was for just one night. I now know why rich people sleep longer than paupers. When I woke up the next morning, I felt like I was suspended in mid-air. It was as if I had reached my heaven. Not even God himself could have made me leave Baba Shaggy's house after that. The next morning, Iya Tope brought breakfast into my room. Her fingers touched the face of the plate as she placed it on the bedside table. There was no way I could eat. So for 2 days, all I did was sleep and wake and sleep, harboring unbearable hunger pangs. On the third day, I stood up from my slumber, knowing I would die if I didn't eat. I found the kitchen and scrubbed every inch of it. The wives stepped around me in hushed curiosity. I finished at 8 o'clock in the evening. Then I sat on the floor and finished a plate of yam. I cleaned and cooked the yam myself. That night, Baba Segi came to me. He sat on my bed and grabbed my breasts. I thought it was all quite amusing until he jumped between my legs and tried to force his penis into me. I'm still wearing my underwear, I told him. It wasn't like Tunde at all. There was no sucking, no leaking, no nuzzling, no moistening. Baba Segi was heavy. Everything about him was clumsy and awkward. He heaved and hooed, poured his water into me and collapsed onto my breasts. Tunde never did that. He always shook his water onto my belly. I looked forward to the day our paths would cross again at Meat Roads. For months, I cleaned. I knew I would find today when the time was right. One day, that fat frog Iya Shegi asked if I had noticed that Iya Tope had left all the house cleaning to me. The truth was that I didn't want to share the washing and cleaning with Iya Tope. Sometimes I had to clench my fist to resist the urge to drag her to the backyard, brush her yellowing teeth, wipe her nose, and scrub her from top to bottom. When I asked Iya Shegi what she wanted me to do about the information she had given me, she lifted both palms and insisted she was only telling me because she had taken a liking to me. "Thank you," I said, staring her dead in the eye. "Let me tell you now, I don't like people who think they can outsmart me. Grandma used to throw skirts into the laundry basket with money in the pockets, hoping I would steal it so she could accuse me. I wasn't that stupid. Then she would leave her jewelry box open and leave one ring on it. One, as if I didn't know she stored the rest of her jewelry in a vanity case in the wardrobe. The day I left their house, I took complete sets with me. I took a heavy cross too. If I was going to be a Christian, I would need a crucifix. The most stupid thing was what Grandma did about the underwear though. She would creep up behind me and ask me to lift my skirt so she could see my underwear. She did this every time her daughters reported that their underwear was missing. Why would I wear stolen underwear? They were buried in a big sack of rice in the pantry. I hate it when people think they can outsmart me. The frog was relentless. She taught me tricks that helped me get the better of the goat. "Do this for Baba Segi," she would say. "It will make him love you more." "More than he loves you?" I'll ask. Then she will make that sound in her throat. Just like a frog. I didn't think so. Although the idea of becoming the wife who could get anything she wanted from Baba Segi was attractive to me. The price was less, so Baba Segi was like a flatulent pig. Grandma would have scolded him. She would have rubbed chili pepper around his anus. Remember I said there was a road ahead of me and Tunde? Well, one day, I trod him from Grandma's house to his workplace. When he saw me running toward him, he burst into laughter. He laughed until tears fell from his eyes. "Bravo!" he kept shouting. He says many strange things that I don't understand. He took me to a hotel not far from his workplace and said renting a room for 2 hours in the afternoon was called short time. It was good to have him back between my thighs, especially after 2 nights with Baba Segi, whose penis was so big that 2 men could share it and still be well endowed. Where he uses bang 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 like a hammer, Tunde uses like a forefinger. He bent and turned until it stroked all the right places. During one of our frequent short-time sessions, I told Tunde that I was married to Baba Segi. He didn't seem surprised at all. He just smiled. "It can only make our sweet time better," he said. One night when Baba Segi was busy pummeling Iya Tope, Iya Shegi came to my room and told me how children were born in Baba Shegi's household. She said it is as if the solution wasn't out of choice but necessity. When she left my room, I smiled to myself. I was already pregnant. 6 months later, Baba Segi and I brought Femi home from the hospital. "He is very big for a child born 3 months early," his wife sneered. I told her the ways of God were mysterious and snatched my newborn son from her arms. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate Baba Segi. On the contrary, I have several reasons to be thankful to him. He gave me a place of refuge when the wicked of the world were ready to swallow me whole. You see, when the world owes you so much as it owes me, you'll need a base from which you can call in your debts. In return for his kindness, I have worked tirelessly to make him happy. I cook his favorite meals the way Grandma taught me. The people in his household are easy to please. Cook them a hearty meal and they worship you. In the years I lived in Baba Shegi's house, I've never forgot the evil my uncle did to me. I was reminded of it every day. Every day the children come home from school and talk about science and math. My head is flooded with anger. They use words like biology and geometry, words I don't understand. Words I would have understood if my uncle had sent me to school. If he had remembered the kindness with which my parents dealt with him, he would have seen to it that I became a greater person than I am today. I would have been rich and powerful, not a third wife in an illiterate man's home. My uncle deprived me of opportunities, and grandma too. Thieves! That's what they are. Fletchers of fortune. I won't rest until they are punished. In the Bible, God said, "Vengeance is mine." If God can delight in vengeance, how much more a poor soul like me, who has been misused by the world? I must revenge. Only then will I accept there was a reason for all my suffering. Last week, I returned to my village. If in your mind you're asking what for, then it means you haven't been listening to my words. I returned to Ekebo. Tunde took me there. He said he wanted to help me make my dreams come true. I have often told him how I came to work for his mother for 15 years. My story moves him and he asks me if I mind that he sheds a tear or two. True enough, he sheds them, and they are never more than the two agreed on. He says my life is a beautiful tragedy, though I don't know what that means. I waited in the barn they had built for their goats. 2 she-goats. That was the extent of their livestock. The scent of the miserable creatures nearly killed me, so I kicked them until they limped off my land. My uncle was first to come out through the back door. He had a large cloth wound round his waist. Staring into the clouds, he brushed his teeth with a chewing stick and spat intermittently. He was already using a walking stick. That is what wickedness does. You age before your time. His wife wasn't much better. When she came out to brush her teeth, she sat knees wide apart on a concrete block. Her eyes were open, yet she sounded like she was snoring. Glutton. Their children began to wake up and came out to greet their parents before commencing their morning chores. One of them came to the barn to feed the goats. When he couldn't find them, he scattered yam peel all over my yard. He looked like my father, tall and gangly. The back of his head pointed like the top half of an egg. His name was Malik. He flinched when he heard his father's voice thundering through the house. My uncle had developed a big voice in my absence. Seeing the young man reminded me that I hadn't come there to harm anyone, just to claim what was mine. What do you do when something that is yours is claimed by someone else? You destroy it. You take it apart so devastatingly that it can never be put again together. My fingers brushed the 50-liter keg of kerosene. My palm itched to turn the lid, but I waited. The longer you wait for revenge, the sweeter it is. Before long, the children marched out of the house in red stripes on khaki. So he let his own children go to school. The injustice. Tears came to my eyes, but I blinked them back. Soon, my uncle too slapped the road with his slippers, an old hoe hooked over his shoulder. No doubt, he was going to my farmland. My heart thumped with anticipation as I crept out of my hiding place. There was no real need to crouch and hide as we still didn't have neighbors. My father said he built a house away from the village so we would be shielded from the world's envious eyes. Starting from the backyard, I poured kerosene along the walls. I poured some on the concrete bench my mother placed her baskets on. I poured some on the doormat we used to scrape mud from our feet. The paupers hadn't bought anything or changed anything. Everything was as my father left it. I sprinkled kerosene over all I could see. My uncle's wife didn't recognize me when she opened the door. "Did you know what the Bible says? Touch not my anointed," I asked. At first, she looked at me with interest. When she saw my eyes burning, she retreated into the house. "We are Muslims in this household," she replied. "I am telling you what the Bible says because you have done worse than touch. You have bruised God's anointed." I barged past her and locked us both in. I put the key in my bra and poured kerosene on the clothes in the wardrobes, the baskets of food. I emptied the keg onto the overworn shoes stacked in the corner. I even upturned the kerosene stoves for good measure. It took a lot for me to swallow my laughter when she started banging on the door, shouting, "Don't kill me, oh! Don't kill me, oh!" That would have been closer to the truth. How quickly fire eats. I ran outside and could see that the insides of the house were half consumed. Flames burst through the windows and the bungalow looked like a blackened shell. You thought I killed her, right? Didn't you? I went seeking revenge, not death. I let her out of the front door, yelling and tearing at her scarf. She couldn't know whether to summon her husband or brave the flames. I prayed that her most precious possessions were aflame, forever beyond reach, destroyed before her very eyes. A few villagers were running toward the furnace. They ran right past me without even glancing in my direction. When I reached the end of the road, Tunde was waiting in his air-conditioned car. He was bent over the steering wheel laughing. "Bravo!" he spluttered. But he caught his breath. Tunde isn't like most men. He calls himself a hedonist. He says he lives for worldly pleasures. Who wouldn't like to live for pleasure? Only some were denied them for 15 years. Tunde's lips are constantly wrapped around a cigarette, and he drinks beer until he is blind. He says he wants to die both under and inside a woman who is not his wife. He says the years with his mother have made him weak, and that if I had any guts, I would live freely like he does. He is wrong. I am not weak at all. It's just that my journey with him isn't complete yet, and only when it is will I be truly free. But I can't tell him that. I'm waiting for the day when my sons will be grown up, the day they can stand tall and walk proud. I don't treat my children the way the other wives treat theirs. I don't beat them or scold them. My babies won't suffer like their mother did. They will have pain-free lives. They will eat what they want and wash their hands when they want. The family knows that the quickest way to see the red of my eyes is to let me come home and find one of my children weeping. They understand that my children aren't like the other children in Baba Segi's household. They weren't tired by some riffraff. I made sure of that. Their father lives in a house with a garden and a gas cooker. Their father's mother is wealthy and respected. She doesn't have paupers as friends. She wears the best gold and most elaborately embroidered lace. She would do everything to ensure her only son marries well and that his children are of good stock. Nothing makes me praise the Lord more than this. One day, I will walk into her house with her grandsons. I will look her in the eye and tell her that they are Tunde's children. Then, I will see what Grandma will do. Things are different in this house now. For 5 years, Baba Segi loved me the most. I was better than his other wives, and he didn't hide this in the way he behaved toward me. He would pretend he had an evening fever so he wouldn't have to enjoy Iya Shegi's bed. Then he would sneak into mine at night so he could be with me. He took me out to visit his friends. He liked the way I dressed, so I alone accompanied him to parties. He loved the way I cooked, the way I looked. Wouldn't you? Who wouldn't? I may be 30, but my lips are quicker than a child's. My stomach bears no signs of labor. My breasts are full. I can't walk down the street without people wanting me. I couldn't even walk across the sitting room without Baba Segi salivating. But everything changed the day the monkey stepped into this house. Baba Segi found a monkey whose teeth had been caught on sorrow, and he forgot about me. I cannot accept it. I will not accept it. How can anyone accept being pushed aside for a woman who stores blemished bowls? Let me tell you what makes me laugh the most. The way we planted the ogu in her room. She declared to the world she would give her husband a son. What a fool. The biggest thing that will come out of her is a good, hefty shit. The toad hates her so she won't tell her the secret. The pygmy goat fears us so she won't tell. And she won't hear anything from me. I want her gone. I want my place back and I will get it. 3 days after Iya Shegi and I decided what we were going to do, the toad came to the kitchen. At first, I thought she had just come to beg for food. It was Cole's 4th birthday and I was preparing a feast. All of the children were buzzing with anticipation and wondering what dish I would dazzle them with that year. Even the other wives know what these days mean to me, so they leave the kitchen and over around for the meal. Iya Shegi tiptoed into the kitchen. "What are you making, Iya Femi?" "The ghost has left the house," she whispered. "Jollof rice and chicken." Baba Segi came to my room last night, but he didn't touch me. Before I could give him the ejakika I had prepared for him, he was fast asleep, or so he wanted me to think, for a man who cannot sleep without snoring. I said, I didn't hear a sound from his mouth. That witch has cast a spell on him. If we're not careful, he won't sleep with us unless he asks her first. The gods forbid it. We forbid it. We will not let it happen. Go look what I have brought you. Iya Shegi slipped me a small plastic bag bound several times over with a rubber band. Iya Shegi, you have the heart of a lion and the wisdom of a tortoise. What better day to bring that rat to justice? Keep your voice down. Iya Shegi peered out of the back door. Iya Tokwe must not hear of this. Who knows where our weakness is leading her? Yes, it is between us. We must settle this matter, and God will help us. Listen to me. place Bolanle's portion outside her bedroom door like we normally do when she doesn't join us. When she returns this evening, we'll greet her as if all is well so she does not suspect anything. How quickly does it work? Will we have cause to rejoice by tomorrow morning? Mr. Tadru said the medicine man who sold it to him promised immediate results. He said it was collected from the fangs of a cobra. Tadru lied that it was for easing life out of an ailing dog. When the poison turns her belly, Baba Segi will be forced to take her to her father's house. You can count on me, Yashegi. Evildoers should get what they deserve. The Bible says so. As soon as Yashegi left the kitchen, I tore out the bundle impatiently. The Lord is going to use me to conquer my enemy. The mantle of justice has fallen on me. Ha! I am blessed. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's the end of chapter 13. Oh wow. It's getting really, really, I think it's now giving African magic vibes, Abby. So, these women, are planning to poison Bolanle. Well, let's see if the woman who is the most educated in the house of Baba Segi would be able to escape, and you only know that if you join us for our next episode. Please like, share, and comment. Thank you so much for being with us on this episode. It's the 3BN channel where books come alive.